This week we thought we've been talking a lot about the Olympics lately, or the Paralympics. It's like the Olympics, but it's a separate thing. So that's a thing in itself that we've been talking about, the segregation of the Paralympics, but then the positive outlook of the Paralympics and the putting disabled sport real high on the agenda. So the positives and the negatives, things that we think are good, things that we think are bad. And I think today for this episode, we just thought we'd go over, and we may do extra episodes, maybe spin-offs from the different things that we mention in it. But I think today we just thought we'd maybe say some of our thoughts and some of our views on how we view the Paralympics, their role in society, what we think of them. Are they making things better for people in society who have a disability? Are they making things better for people who don't have a disability and don't ever engage with someone who has a disability? To then maybe go forward, and how we all as one have a society where we just interact with each other and treat each other as real normal people. I don't know, Michaela, you've been saying a lot about this of late. One Masalal vlog that you did on the advert where you were outraged. No, you weren't outraged. Michaela, but you were your concerned political self. How do you think it's all gone so far?
I mean, I think what we need to remember is that there's absolutely no doubt that the Paralympics is on the whole, probably quite a good thing. It pushes disability into the forefront. It gets people with disability. It makes people realise that disability is not the end of everything. It can be the beginning of something. We've seen that this week with the bronze and gold medal, one on the athletic track and one on the cycling track, from a woman who's not long been diagnosed with MS. So it's something that actually can give newly diagnosed people who are adults hope for what they can do, rather than doctors constantly pushing the agenda of what they can't do. But at the same time, I'm left with a real genuine worry as to why we have the Paralympics. First of all, we've seen what's happened in Rio. We've seen the financial difficulties. There were initially quite a number of concerns over ticket sales. I think that has proven to be resolved. From what I watched over the weekend, there has been quite a few people in the stands at the crowds at the event, so hopefully that's not part sorted. But what remains is the extreme financial difficulties that seem to be hitting the Paralympics. And from I was very, very young, from maybe back in Athens, I always felt that why are we having two separate events? Why can we not have them combined? Yes, keep the two sports separate, absolutely, because what we don't want is one person having an advantage over another. And I think the classification system within the Paralympics themselves can be quite difficult to get right, and I do not envy that job. But at the same time, I don't think we need two separate games. I think we can do it all together and eliminate the financial difficulties that there are. And that's one side of it. But then when I think about actually who is this for, the Olympics are for the public at large. And part of me wonders is if the Paralympics is only catering to that almost voyeuristic side of things, that non-disabled people need these disabled athletes to go out and show them what they can do, purely for the fact to make the non-disabled person feel better about themselves or about what they do, and also to make non-disabled people feel like they've done something for these almost lesser worthy or lesser able people. And that's the concern I have, and that doesn't just go with the Paralympics, it goes across a number of things. And I think to my own personal favourite sport, I think of snooker. And there's really no reason why disabled snooker players can't play against the likes of Ronnie O'Sullivan and beat them. So why do we not have a combined sport there too? And I say the same about females in snooker as well. I believe the females should be integrated into the main game and into the main tour. But why is that not happening? And I think it's that voyeuristic side of things.
Well, I think that's certainly something for the mix, is that it's segregated at the moment. And for me, it is like a segregation of male, female, and disabled. And there is, for me, no reason to see it as one Olympics. So there's definitely that side of things. Certainly, there's no reason, a valid reason to having it segregated. Why can't you incorporate all these sports into a main Olympic event? And then, why it is being put on the big screen as well. I don't know, Zoe, your thoughts?
I am somebody who has a very minimal interest in sport, disabled or otherwise. I have about as much interest in the Paralympics as I have in the Olympics. So for me, I see them as equally interesting. And I will watch both of them, but I don't care that much about what's going on behind the scenes. Saying that, I think there's a valid point there about the segregation of the Olympics. Every single time we have an Olympics, we also have a Paralympics. There's no real reason why these should be treated as separate events. And I remember when we had them in London, and I was quite miffed that because they were separate events, the BBC got one and Channel 4 got the other, for example. And it kind of, and it's one of those things where, the BBC, they have, as the national broadcast, they have the automatic rights to broadcast the Olympics, but not the Paralympics. And why is that? And I think that kind of shows that one is viewed as intrinsically more valuable and more in the public interest than the other. It actually went against the whole spirit of what London 2012 was meant to be about, where, we had a really, really good turnout for the Paralympics. The tickets were available in the same way, and people went and saw both types of event, and there was not a huge amount of differentiation between what people wanted to go and see, which I thought was really good. But there was a real push for that, and in Rio there hasn't been that same push, and I think that's then borne out in the fact that there was such a worry about the Paralympics and people not attending, because there wasn't that same kind of value attached to the Paralympics as to the Olympics by its organisers. But then again, if it's not what the public are interested in, it's not what the public are interested in. There are lots and lots of sports that don't get public recognition.
Yeah.
I mean, you can talk about women's sports, for example. It's exactly the same thing. You look at the turnout for the Men's World Cup versus the Women's World Cup, and it's chalk and cheese. It's a really difficult one because it's kind of like people will go and see what they want to see. And yes, I think, broadcasters have a duty to give people access to those sports. But, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make a drink. And if people don't want to watch those sports, then I'm not sure what we're supposed to do to sort of make them go or make them interested in these things. And I sort of sit there going, well, yeah, okay, as a disabled person, maybe I should be more interested in the Paralympics. But I look at the Paralympics and I don't see anyone like me on there, because that's not, people with my kind of condition, they don't really do sports, Olympic sports, apart from bocce, and so watching Johnny Peacock and watching Usain Bolt, I get the same kind of sense of impossibility, which is fine because it's top international athleticism. I shouldn't be sitting there going, I could do that. No, I bloody couldn't. Most of the population who watch Olympics don't sit there and go, oh yeah, this gives me inspiration. I could go out and I could set a world record for the 400 meters, or I could jump. I could do the high jump, or no, you can't. And the idea that the Paralympics should be some kind of inspiration to disabled people to think that they can go out and get a gold medal. I mean, I just think that's completely unrealistic. If you can be the best person in the world at your sport, that's an achievement, right? It's not an achievement that we should all necessarily aim for, because then hundreds and thousands of millions of people are going to be very disappointed with themselves.
Yeah. And that's the trouble for me, is what I see as an uncongruency, if that's the word. There's no congruency between disabled representation in terms of the Paralympics up here, woo! But if we look at disabled sport day in, day out, 5 Sky Sports channels don't bid for any of them. And they have amateur hockey on, women's basketball, everything. So if we look here and we say disabled sport in general in society, boom, 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 boom. But Paralympics, whoa! And then if we look at not just sport, but turning it out, if it's not entertainment for the people, side note here, people say, Paralympics, and as Michaela said, we don't want to purport it as kind of freak show material. For me, the Olympics has always been freak show material. The Olympics, it's a bit of a freak show to have a shot put event, like someone so big that they can throw a very small, very heavy ball a long way. That's freak show. That's not a game or it's a sport to watch to go, who's going to win this one? You know, that's like a kind of that you'd watch every 4 years. So when it is put in that paradigm of every 4 years, and we take the games out of it and we say, but these games aren't watched on a daily or weekly, you know, in ordinary life, then we're going to run the risk of incorporating it with this thing that is, you know, even for genuine superhumans like Usain Bolt, sort of freak show. We may not see it as negative connotations of freak show because, Usain Bolt, he's dancing in the club and everyone likes him, but it's still that sort of paradigm for me. And we need to take it out of that, and we need to address it and assess it and say, why is it that it's so well watched and so well moneyed when it's put in this light, but actually when we take it out and put it in a normal everyday life, people watching it on Sky Sports 3 at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, it's not even there. And when it's taken out of the light of being able to be something that's an entertainment product for people to consume, be it normals or whoever else to sit there and watch, if it's, you know, like Suleiman doing something that he does, or I don't know, why are disabled people so underrepresented in society across the board, but if it comes to sport that people can sit there and go, ooh, then it's this mass overrepresentation almost. You know, that's something that concerns me.
Made this comparison with the shot put. Like, obviously, people aren't going to tune in to watch their weekly like shot put competition, because nobody's particularly interested in that. But once every 4 years, when it's done on a big grand scale, people are like, oh, actually, this is quite an interesting thing to see these people who are the best in the world competing at this thing that I never normally have any interest in. I'll sit down and watch it for 20 minutes. And I don't, and you know, whether that's within the standard Olympics or in the Paralympics, I feel like it's the same principle. You can argue that shot put is overrepresented at the Olympics and underrepresented in everyday life. I know it's not exactly the same, but I don't think the argument that, oh, well, you know, why isn't there disability sport all the time and then we pay so much attention to it at the Paralympics? I'm not sure that's really one that has much traction, really, because there are some things that people don't want to watch all the time, you know.
But Zoe, what I'd say here is I would draw a line down the middle of the ones that are kind of feats, we could call it, you know, things that would be once every 4 years or certainly once every year, because you can't go breaking a shot put world record every week. So things that are feats and things that are games that people can watch and sit back and enjoy and go, oh yes, 45 minutes of this. So, and I think that fine, when we take the feats and the achievements, we can put them all into one and say, yeah, fine, that's Olympics stuff. But if we take aside stuff like powerchair football, stuff like bocce, stuff like wheelchair basketball, stuff like wheelchair tennis, and we say they are things that people would watch on a weekly and do watch on a weekly for non-disabled versions of them, but the disabled versions of them only get their shout out in the Paralympics, and they get a huge shout out. So that's
tennis is an interesting example, actually, because all of the big tennis competitions, they do also show the wheelchair tennis alongside the standard men's and women's. Look at Wimbledon. So Wimbledon, you have, you know, your Andy Murray's and your Djokovic's, and then you also have wheelchair tennis. It's broadcast all as part of the same package on the same channels with the same presenters. You know, it's done and it's very integrated and it's possible. But yeah, I mean, I take your point with things like football and rugby and basketball. They don't get the same being broadcast alongside the other major event in the able-bodied sphere of that sport. So you don't see the World Cup and the Blind World Cup, or, you know, the Rugby World Cup and the Murderball World Cup being done as a package. And, you know, I think that's a valid point. And tennis, I think, demonstrates that it can be done, and it's not that difficult to do it.
No, I think tennis is a unique and very good thing, the way it's done, because tennis is actually something that tries to incorporate women and men on the same level, which is I mean, that's fantastic. So for me, it's natural that tennis should be able to then incorporate in disabled tennis, wheelchair tennis in with it. And for me, when we talk about something like football, bringing in blind football, football has so much disparity top and bottom that you have non-league football, and you can't be so that is.
I'm talking about an international level here. I'm not talking about Millwall versus West Ham. I'm talking about your major international tournaments. Obviously, there's not necessarily the scope for every single football club in the UK. Pittsville FC to have also Pittsville Wheelchair FC. Yeah. Obviously, that's not a realistic idea because there's just not enough interest even at the player level, let alone the supporter level. But on an international level, when you've got major international tournaments, the big ticket events for each of these sports, there's an opportunity there to incorporate disability sport into that and women's sport into that and whatever other major groups there are that participate in these sports. There is an opportunity there to do that, but there's no impetus currently to do that.
I think on a viewer level right now, disabled sports are seen only within the paradigm of Paralympics. And I think that when they escape from, well, not escape, because that means it seems like they have to leave, but when they move, broaden away from just being just that, I think that that's when we can really start to talk about success. I don't know, Michaela, what were you?
There's one thing that's just popped into my head, and this is particularly for those in the States, but a lot of the signals in baseball came from a deaf player way back in the 1800s who couldn't hear the referee, and so they incorporated the sign languages into it. So that's an example of years and years ago where disabled sport was made inclusive. And that's something that I think we can all strive for at some point or another. But I mean, I think back to Wimbledon, and we had our first British winner of the wheelchair tennis. And I know that, and I'm sure pretty much everyone I'm talking to now knows that. But how many people in the public know that? Do they know that tennis is integrated? Do they know that? And I was actually quite shocked when I seen it broadcast alongside Annie Murray's final, and I was like, where did this come from? Where has this been hiding? I didn't know it was there. And that sometimes just it flares up, and I think back to the Paralympics again, and it's really only been integrated from 1988 that the Olympics and the Paralympics must be held in the same country and within the same facilities, and that agreement only goes to 2020. So what happens after Tokyo? Are we going to continue that agreement? Is that going to change? Mm-hmm. There's so many unanswered questions, and at the end of the day, disabled people, I enjoy the games, I watch them. I think they're a good thing on the whole. But there are things within it that can lead to so many of the things that we face in society every day, which can lead to the steps going into a building that I want to get into and I can't get in because my wheels don't go up steps. Those misconceptions about disability, I can often feed from a skewed portrayal of disability. I think we're halfway there, but we're not quite fully there yet. And I think London 2012 was really well done. I thought it worked really well. I think the adverts were good for their time. The portrayal of it was really good. But we're in Rio now. I don't think we've progressed any further, and that's the bit that's frustrating me more than anything. We haven't moved along that line, and we've just stuck where we were back in 2012. When are we going to move forward? And that's the frustrating part for me.
Solomon,
what? That is all for this week's episode. Tune in to next week's episode where we'll finish off the second part of that chat. As ever, thank you for watching. Remember to give us a like, subscribe, and follow us on Facebook and YouTube if you enjoyed so you can keep up to date. We'll see you next time.